Welcome back to the video, and in today's video, we're going to name the GOAT or the greatest of all-time player for every single NBA team. This is not based on the best player who has played for that team. It is based on who had the best career for their team, who has also had insane numbers, but also spent a long enough time there to qualify for the best player for that team. I hope you enjoy this video. If you do enjoy this video, please make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel because we are on the road to 600, and we are currently at 445 subscribers. So if you're new and you like the content, please just sure to subscribe to get me up to that number to 600. And we got some bangers coming along the way. I'm sorry for not posting some videos recently. I've tried to do this video for a couple times, and it keeps having this weird broadcast glitch that isn't letting me post the video. So I'm trying it yet again. I think I had too much storage. I got rid of all the storage, and now we are back to actually post the video, and we were saying the best all-time player. Let's get straight into the video, and the first one might be the easiest one to choose. We had the Chicago Bulls, and that's obviously going to be Michael Jordan, the greatest player of all time. I mean, he averaged like 7 years in a row of 30-plus points. He's the GOAT for a reason, and it's not even a question. He changed the Bulls' history, and I know Scottie Pippen was a big part as well, but he changed the Bulls. So that's pretty easy. Next up be the Mavericks. This is going to be Dirk Nowitzki. I guess, maybe at the end of his career, Luka might take that spot. But Dirk has been there for way too long, and he's done way too much to lose it this quickly. I mean, talk about a guy that really changed the game of basketball. I mean, he came up with a signature move that legitimately no one can do, the one-legged fadeaway. No one can put it in their bag because no one knows how to do it. That's how good he was at it. Just a playoff scorer, a playoff performer, and he did nothing but succeed in Dallas. Next up, the Denver Nuggets, and this is going to be a current player, Nikola Jokic. 2 MVPs. As I'm recording this, the Nuggets just won the NBA Finals, so now he's going to have a Finals, a ring, and a Finals MVP, most likely, because I did just watch it, but I didn't see who won the Finals MVP, but I'm sure Jokic obviously going to win it. Bro averages triple-doubles like it's nothing, and I guess for a guard, it's much easier. For a center like Jokic, it's a lot harder to do it, and he's the greatest offensive center of all time. So, best all-time player for the Nuggets is going to be Jokic. Next to the Pistons, it's Isaiah Thomas. Unfortunately, I am not old enough to watch Isaiah Thomas, but I knew kind of what he was. Great playmaker, great scorer, and overall a great team leader. Again, the Pistons are kind of one of those teams where, like, you don't really know because they're all kind of, like, great players, but they don't have any, like, insane players. But obviously, when you think of the Pistons, you think about Isaiah Thomas. Next up is the Brooklyn Nets. This is going to be Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd, well, it's actually the New Jersey Nets when he played, but Jason Kidd was incredible when he played for the Nets. And we're talking about the second leader in steals, one of the best passers of all time, and overall, really just kind of defined the guard position in the 90s where it was kind of slacking. Not even slacking, it was just, you didn't really see those kind of guards that Jason Kidd was, a passing guard that did nothing but help his team win. And this is pretty easy. It's going to be Jason Kidd. Next up for the Atlanta Hawks, this is going to be, in my opinion, Dominique Wilkins. You could say Bob Pettit because he has 2 MVPs, but he played in the 60s. I can't give it to him if it's a close battle because he did play against plumbers. Dominique, the top 10 scorer of all time, did nothing but succeed. 28,000 points, I think, overall, or something like that. Great scorer, and when I think about the Atlanta Hawks, they don't have a ton of talent, but you gotta go with Dominique Wilkins. Next up for the Indiana Pacers, I'm gonna go with this is a little bit harder than you might think, but I think it's still gonna be Reggie Miller. Like, it's a little tough. You could say Paul George, and I wouldn't be complaining with you. I think it is Reggie though. Talk about a shooter. He would do nothing but run up the court, run front and back of the court, and just shoot threes. And he was amazing. Has one of the most iconic celebrations, and the dude was elite. So that's my pick for the Pacers. Next up, we have the Minnesota Timberwolves, and this is going to be Kevin Garnett. The big ticket, top 20 player of all time, arguably, and probably is. Power forward, but huge. He could play make. He could score. His rim finishing was amazing. He was a menace to play against. He's the best all-time player for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Next up, we have the New York Knicks, and as much as I want to say it's Carmelo Anthony, it's definitely Patrick Ewing. I mean, one of the most dominant centers in his era. 7 foot, monstrosity of a figure to play against. Obviously, again, I didn't get to watch him, but looking at highlights of him from those years like the 1990s. He was a beast. Patrick Ewing is without doubt the best player for the Knicks. Next for the Cavaliers, just like the Bulls, this is a pretty easy one. We can just move on. It's LeBron James. Four-time MVP. I know he didn't win all the 4 MVPs there, but I'm still going to say it. Four-time MVP, four-time NBA champion. Actually, maybe it's 5-time at this point. I don't even know. I think it's 4 times still. Yeah, it's 4 times. It's 4 time. And he's the second greatest player of all time. So that's pretty easy. It's obviously going to be the Cavaliers. Now, another team that LeBron played for, Miami Heat, but it's definitely not going to be LeBron James. Again, LeBron might have been the best player that played there, but in my opinion, Dwayne Wade is the best all-time Heat. He did nothing but play there. He really changed the Heat organization. He is a Heat legend. When you think about the Heat, you got to think about Dwayne Wade. Maybe LeBron was the best to put on the Heat jersey, but Dwayne Wade's the best player who played for the Heat. A great scorer, clutch, and he got himself into highlights of some of the clutchest moments in NBA history. Next to the Toronto Raptors, this is going to be Vince Carter. In my opinion, Vince is the best player for the Raptors. I mean, I feel like the Raptors were kind of dying in his era, and he really kind of kept it up. One of the most athletic players in history, the best dunker in history, and overall, he did nothing but was just a player that can always be recognized for his talents, and really, he really had more athleticism than anyone in that era because it was still kind of that rough and tough era where you just kind of drive the basket, and he really changed the game in that way as well. Next up, we have the Boston Celtics. This is going to be one of the harder ones. You could say Larry Bird, you could say Bill Russell. But in my opinion, I am taking the most winning player of all time, Bill Russell. 11 rings and was dominant. He's the best center in his era, in my opinion. I think you can see that Bill Russell play against Will. I wouldn't be mad about you to take Larry Bird. It's literally a 50-50, but I'm taking the rings over Larry Bird. I think if you think about the Celtics, you could think about Larry Bird, but in my opinion, you think about Bill Russell's career out with the Celtics. I feel like Larry Bird did not have long enough of a career to give him that, and I'm taking Bill Russell. Next will be the Washington Wizards. This is going to be Wes Unseld. Again, not a player I really got to watch, but I think he was like 7 foot, great inside scoring, one of the best. He's like the leader. He's like one of the top defensive players, and he could also score at the rim. So my pick for the Washington Wizards is going to be Wes Unseld. For the Rockets, this is also pretty easy. You got the Hakeem Olajuwon. Not only did he have one of the best signature moves in NBA history with the Dream Shake, not only was he the best defensive player in that era, but he was amazing as well. I mean, not only could he score the ball, not only could he defend, but he's one of the most versatile defenders of all time, if not the best versatile defender of all time. When you think about the Rockets, you got to think about Hakeem Olajuwon. He won a couple MVPs. He's my pick there. Next will be the Utah Jazz. This is going to be John Stockton. John Stockton, I believe, is the all-time leader in assists. Is that true, or am I bugging? I don't think that's not true, but he is one. I think he is. He's the all-time leader in assists, and I think the all-time leader in steals as well. Again, when you look at his stats, you maybe aren't too impressed because he didn't really score 20 points a game or anything like that. But he was a team player, and he was an amazing player at that. The no-look passes, you can remember John Stockton as being a Utah Jazz best player, the GOAT. Next up, we have the New Orleans Pelicans. I'm gonna go with Anthony Davis. You could say Boogie, I guess. I don't really know exactly, but the Pelicans haven't had a long enough career where you can really say anybody definitively. My opinion, it's Anthony Davis. I feel like his prime was at the New Orleans Pelicans, and he was a legit beast, especially in like the 2017-2018 season, in that range when they got Boogie. He was great. Next up is the Sacramento Kings. I'm gonna say this is actually kind of hard. I think I go with the big O here, Oscar Robertson. You could say Boogie, or you could say like Chris Webber, but I think I would go with Oscar Robertson. I mean, one of the best passers of all time. Could also score at a pretty high level. Again, you guys could say he played in the 60s, whatever. But at the end of the day, you look at his stats, and then you can actually see how talented this guy was, even if he's playing in today's era. Obviously, wouldn't have been as good, but you gotta credit his talent in his era. Next up is the Oklahoma City Thunder. This one's pretty easy. This is gonna be Russell Westbrook, and maybe Kevin Durant was the best player to put on the Oklahoma City Thunder jersey. But when you think about the Oklahoma City Thunder, you think about Russell Westbrook, 2017-18 MVP. He averaged a triple-double, most triple-doubles of all time. He is a stat board machine. As much as you can hate him now, as he's playing horribly now in his career, and yes, the second half of his career has been bad. The start of his career and the middle of his career was really, really good, though. And Russell Westbrook is a dog. I'm putting Russell Westbrook as the best all-time player for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Next up with the Milwaukee Bucks, this is going to be Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and I know you might be thinking Giannis, but here's my stat line to prove you guys wrong. Giannis and Kareem both have one ring. Kareem has one more MVP. It's simple as that. Kareem has done more accolades and achievements better than Giannis. Also, Giannis in the playoffs hasn't been the best recently, and he's definitely been struggling. Now, what I will say about Giannis is he will go down as the best Bucks player in history, no doubt about it. But he hasn't had hasn't had a long enough reign there. If he plays the rest of his career for Milwaukee and puts up the stats that he's been doing right now, he will 100% be the best Bucks player of all time. But right now, at this very, very moment, I'm going to put Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as the best Bucks player, the GOAT of the Milwaukee Bucks. Next up, the Portland Trailblazers, I'm going to go with Clyde Drexler. Clyde, again, speedy, and overall talent-wise, he was great. I could see Dame in that conversation at this point. I really could see it. But I think Clyde's had a long enough career as a Portland Trailblazer that he still deserves it. But I think Dame's on his way. Next up, we have the Los Angeles Clippers. Again, this is kind of hard because not a lot of players have been there long enough. But I'm going to say Bob McAdoo, I guess, would be my pick. Again, not a player I really got to watch, but I think he was an MVP. I actually don't think he was. But all I know is that he had good stats and he was a great player. So I'm going to put the Clippers GOAT as Bob McAdoo. Next will be the Hornets. Alonzo Mourning, I guess. It's kind of hard to say who it is because the Hornets franchise is horrible. Play wise, not play wise, but you know what I mean. Their franchise isn't good. And I guess I gotta go with the Hornet. I guess I gotta go with Alonzo Mourning. I mean, he was probably the best Hornets player to put on that jersey, and he had a long enough career there. Well, I'll say that the Hornets is gonna be Alonzo Mourning. Next will be the Lakers. This is gonna be Kobe Bryant. Rest in peace to the Mamba. You could say arguments for Magic Johnson or Kareem. In my opinion, I think they didn't spend enough time there. Kareem didn't spend enough time there. And overall, when you look at stats, I think Kobe Bryant just edges out Magic Johnson just by a little bit, and that's why I'm going to give him the slight edge. Next, we have the San Antonio Spurs. This is another easy one. This is Tim Duncan. Top 10 player of all time. In my opinion, he's the sixth best player of all time. One of the best fundamental big men, except it actually might be the best fundamental big man. I can't talk right now. Fundamental big man in all of basketball in history. And he did nothing but lead his teams to championships. And I know the teams were stacked, but he was a main part of it. Next, with the Memphis Grizzlies. Again, did not spend enough time there, but I'm going to say Zach Randolph. He was a bully. He did nothing but get to the rim. He reminds me a lot about Zion, except he can't dunk as well. But Zach is still is one of the best players of all time, without a doubt. Not the best, probably top 100. But the Grizzlies haven't had a long enough time to give anyone else it right now. The Magic. This is gonna be Dwight Howard again. You could say Shaq. He put the best performance on as a Magic. But if we're talking about the longevity, I mean, I know Dwight Howard's second half of his career has been horrible. We're talking about the first half. We're talking about him in his prime, one of the best rebounders of all time. Not rebounders, but in this era, he was the best rebounder. He was the best defender, and he still was a great scorer in the inside presence. Next up, the Philadelphia 76ers, I'm going to go with Allen Iverson. He changed the game. As much as you can say Dr. J or Moses Malone, he changed the game. He changed the Sixers. 2001 MVP, he changed the game based on athleticism and handles. I mean, the crossover. He changed the crossover game. And without a doubt, he'll go down as the Philadelphia 76ers GOAT. Next up, we have the Phoenix Suns, and I'm going to say Steve Nash. He spent a lot of time there. You could say Charles Barkley, I won't be mad about it, but I think Charles did not spend enough time there. In my opinion, Steve Nash, 2 MVPs. He led his team to a couple of playoff runs. Unfortunately, he never got a ring, but he also didn't have the teams where he was able to really get that many rings. But Steve Nash, 2-time MVP, there's no really doubt about it that he should be the best Suns player, the GOAT of the Suns franchise. And last but not least, we have my team, the Golden State Warriors. This is without a doubt Steph Curry. Top 10 player of all time, arguably, in my opinion at least. The best three-point shooter of all time. The best maybe spacer of all time. The best off-ball player of all time. He did nothing but score. He had maybe one of the most legendary MVP runs of all time, unanimous. And he's obviously the GOAT of the Golden State Warriors. And that's the video of naming the best all-time player for every single NBA team. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment down below where if you think I got anything wrong or if you agree with my takes. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace!